Aloha, I'm Lyla Berg, and we're here at the Rail Operations Center, ready to meet the people who inform, inspire, and impact our daily lives. Thank you for tuning in to Island Focus. This room isn't operational yet, but it looks like it's very important.
It is. This is the Operations Control Center. Sometimes they have a simulation running on the board. Today they don't. They might be running all of the tests without the board on. But this is the brain of the railroad. This is where the train controllers can monitor the trains remotely. The security personnel can monitor anything that passengers, emergencies that they might have. They can press the train telephone on the train. They'll instantly be connected with one of the safety and security personnel here. And the camera that's nearest to that telephone button will focus on them, and the safety people will be able to communicate with them.
But without a driver of the train, or conductor, I guess, you'll have people still walking through the cars?
There will be roving personnel. However, driver on a train, on a system that isn't driverless, their job isn't actually to respond to passenger emergencies. If a passenger on a train with a driver pushes an emergency button, they're connected with an OCC similar to this one. They're not connected with the driver. The driver's job is to get the train to the next station. We don't have a driver, but our trains do the same thing. They get the train to the next station, the controllers here tell the train, hold at that station.
Pretty exciting, and it takes training for personnel to be here. This looks like it's not only requires a lot of skills, but also a lot of people.
It will require a number of people, not just here, but in maintenance of the train, in maintenance of the guideway and the tracks. And yes, they are all trained. And Saldo Honolulu has a partnership with Leeward Community College to train local people on basically rail operations, rail maintenance.
All the different facets.
All the different facets.
Wow, exciting. Today we have the opportunity to meet Stephen Vendt, who is the operations manager at the Hawaiian Railway Society. I appreciate you taking the time to come to this place. It must be interesting for you.
It is. It's very interesting. I've had opportunities to come here, but I've never been able to fulfill them. So this is my first time here at the HART Center.
So the Hawaiian Railway, please tell us a little bit more about that.
The Hawaiian Railway Society originally was formed to save a locomotive from Waialua. Our goals are pretty simple. We're a nonprofit educational historical society. We want to educate the public about the railroads of Hawaii. We do that through our narrated train rides and coming out and seeing what's going on out there. We're constantly working on something, restoring something, fixing something. So it's a live museum, if you will, of Hawaii's railroading history, especially on Oʻahu.
So railroads are not foreign to our islands.
No, not at all.
And I think I shared with you earlier, I've been on the one in Lahaina.
Yes.
The one here is very different, and it comes with history.
Yes, it does. We run on a section of the old Oʻahu Railway and Land Company railroad tracks. The Oʻahu Railway was formed in 1889 by King Kalakaua and a guy named Benjamin Dillingham, who we all know. That's why there's a Dillingham Highway, a Dillingham Airfield. He got permission from King Kalakaua to build a railroad. Ultimately, the railroad ran from Iwalei around Pearl Harbor, in fact, not too far from here, went all the way to the west side of the island, up the Waianae coast, around Kaena Point, all the way across the north shore to Kahuku. There was a second line that ran from Waipahu up to Wahiwa.
Was it a transportation system?
It was It was a common carrier railroad, which means they hauled freight, passengers. They hauled just about everything. The only thing they didn't haul was sugar cane. That was the plantation railroads that hauled the sugar cane, brought it to their mill, had it processed, and that would go on the Oʻahu Railway to the docks and go on its way.
Oh, okay. So the society was formed to educate and to let us know.
Well, the society was truly formed to save that locomotive, which is on my shirt, little Waco 6.
Yeah.
It was a steam locomotive up in Wailua. It's unique in that it's the only steam locomotive ever built on Oʻahu. It was built from spare parts in 1919. We got permission to save that engine because they were gonna scrap it. And that's what formed the society. And slowly we started accumulating equipment, mostly from the Army and Navy, because they were still operating trains in the late 60s, early 70s. And that's kind of how we started. We started restoring track from our train yard in Eva, and it now goes 6.5 miles out to Kahi Point and back.
That's history that very few people know, that the Kings actually created a rail system.
If it wasn't for King Kalakaua granting Dillingham a franchise, there wouldn't have been a railroad.
Very amazing. Have you always loved trains?
I've been playing with trains since I was 4 years old. I can remember vividly sitting on the floor playing with my Lionel train set as a child.
And so how did you get involved with this society?
I came here on a vacation in '85, and there was a throwaway newspaper in Waikiki that had a picture of the railroad. And it was like, I didn't realize it was still here. I went out, found out about it, joined. I've been a member since '85. When I moved here originally in 2000, I started volunteering. I was a narrator on the train. We have live narrators that tell you the history of the railroad.
So there's places for volunteers to work?
We're always looking for volunteers. You want to learn to be on the train crew? I need volunteers for that. You want to learn how to narrate the stories? I need people for that. I need people always to help work on something, whether it's woodworking, metalworking, welding, mechanical.
And where's your base?
Our base yard's at the end of Renton Road in Old Eva Villages.
Oh, great. And how long is the trip now if we would take it?
The ride now is about an hour and a half, except on Saturday and Sunday at 3 o'clock. Those rides are a little bit longer because we stop for ice cream on the 3 o'clock ride. We stop the train in Kohala at the ice cream store. Everybody can get off and get their ice cream, and then we come back. So it's an hour and a half to 2 hour ride.
So it must be an experience that brings people together, not just the community, but also bonds people with each other.
We constantly have people that come that remember riding it as a child of the Oʻahu Railway. I had a lady come about a month and a half ago. She wanted to have a birthday party for her 5-year-old daughter because she had her 5th birthday party at the Hawaiian Railway. So that's kind of neat.
Fabulous. Well, we will look forward in the future to hearing a little bit more about the railway system that you represent.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
You've been listening to my conversation with Stephen Vendt, who is the operations manager for the Hawaiian Railway Society. Thanks for being with us. Today on Island Focus, you will enjoy meeting Kim Takazawa, who is the president and CEO of After School All-Stars. After School All-Stars sounds like an athletic team. Nice to see you again.
Nice to meet you too, and see you again too, Lyla.
Please tell us what this is about.
So After School All-Stars, what we do is we provide free, comprehensive after-school programming so that to help kids succeed in school and in life. And it's interesting that you said that it's sports because the genesis of it, I'm really into Marvel comics, so it has a genesis story. It actually starts with Arnold Schwarzenegger in Los Angeles. I mean, we are our own 501c3, but our main national chapter was started by Arnold 20 years ago. And what happened is that, Arnold, who he is, he's a very, aggressive, he's like very with it, and he saw some kids down in South Central LA just hanging out on the sidewalks and by the parks. And I guess he was driving with a friend, and he's like, what are those kids doing? Why are they just hanging around? And they said, well, because they have nowhere else to go. So because of that idea, that's how he started the concept of After School All-Stars, which first started as inter-city competitions with the different schools. And then later on, they realized that, sports was not enough. So they really grew it out and fleshed it out to be a very comprehensive program. And that's what we run here in 10 middle schools and intermediate schools on Oahu and also the Big Island.
So when you say you run a program that is more than physical,
yes, absolutely.
What does that look like? And only in middle schools?
Yes, only in middle school. We are only in middle schools at this time. So what it is that we have the kids, we have the privilege of having these wonderful children, middle schoolers, 6th, 7th, 8th graders, for 3 hours every day after school. So one component has to be academic. We want to make sure that, because a lot of times when they go home, maybe they don't have the supervision or even the quiet space or even the internet to be able to do their homework. So 1 hour is homework time, and then they have 2 hours of enrichment classes. And when I say enrichment classes, it really runs the gamut from sports, basketball.
And
which
they can
Hawaii,
sign up.
They can sign up and they can choose. So sports, basketball, volleyball. We have actually a robust wrestling program too in other places, bocce ball. And then enrichment classes can be such things as STEM robotics, which we have at Lyla Intermediate and Jared Intermediate. Performing arts, we have a really robust one at Jared Intermediate. Art classes, media classes.
Fabulous.
And even something called life service action, where they really learn how to be volunteers for community service in their area. So very comprehensive.
I love the concept of being an all-star in life.
Yes, yes.
And I would imagine in middle school it's very challenging to
of course.
encourage young people to believe in
Yes,
themselves.
Yeah. So you know this since you were a principal at a middle school in the past. So middle schoolers, it's just really a precious time. Body-wise, they look like they're grown up, but like in their hearts, they're really little kids. And that's really where we feel we can make the best and biggest impact to really stick with them for life. We really believe that if they have the right mentorship and the right guidance, because after school is really like the Wild West out there. Like once the bell rings, if they're just released after school, they can do whatever they want. They could either be a Jedi or they can actually enter the dark side. So we really want to capture and set those expectations and the values early on. So that's why we really feel we can make the most impact in middle school.
And is there a prevailing theme or a slogan or something that's related to your programs?
Just that we are really trying to create the all-stars for the next generation. And we really feel because we have this really comprehensive concept of what a whole child should be, like the life service action, community service, athletics, keeping your body like healthy and fit, the performing arts side, like that.
Well, and also having fun.
Oh, absolutely.
In life,
absolutely.
With the boundaries.
Exactly. And I do have to share that, we are very data inspired. That's how it is nowadays for nonprofits. Gone are the days where it's just touchy-feely. So we do have data that shows that our kids in our after-school program, they actually come to school more often than kids who are not in our program. They also have higher grades and also less behavioral issues in school. So, all in all, I think that we're making a difference and an impact.
Well, just based on your enthusiasm and your joy in your position, I would think you are.
Oh, thanks so much.
Yeah, so appreciate you being with us.
Great.
And we'll hear more about this program in the future.
Yes, absolutely. We're in our 9th year of service. Next year is going to be our big 10-year anniversary. We're really looking forward to that. So we're just really appreciative of all the support from the teachers and the parents and, of course, the kids.
And just in middle school.
Just in middle school, yeah.
We've had a wonderful time conversing with Kim Takazawa, who is the president and CEO of After School All Stars. So this is the outside area where the trains come at night to be serviced.
To be serviced.
Okay.
If they need some work done on them, say something isn't working exactly right, and it's not something that can be fixed during the normal cleaning, the trains will come here and technicians will diagnose the problem and then repair it. And we've got heavy maintenance tracks that are elevated. We've got one track that has a set of in-floor lifts that can actually lift the train up about 6 feet, so technicians can under it and change out a wheel if they need to.
Inside, outside, all around.
Inside, outside, all around.
But this is not where they sleep.
No, we have a storage tracks actually that are able to hold the whole fleet, plus some additional space. This is the maintenance area. We have the maintenance tracks here. We've got storage tracks. We've also got wash tracks.
So every train has its route, and then they come back here to be maintained and repaired, and then they go back out again. Okay, and how many trains are we talking about?
There are 20 trains in the fleet. At any given time, we'll be having about 17 trains up on the line, although that number will vary depending on the time of day. Peak times, we'll have 17 with one in standby. Off-peak times, it'll be perhaps 6 or 9. The time between trains will be about 5 to 11 minutes, so you won't have to wait for a train.
Well, I can tell you love what you do.
This is pretty much the best job I can imagine.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Here with us today on Island Focus is Sergeant Chris Kim with the Honolulu Crimestoppers. So good of you to take some time and help us understand how we can help you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So Crimestoppers has a long history in Hawaii. I remember growing up. Maybe you can share a little bit about your background, how you got involved, and what it is now.
First of all, Crimestoppers Honolulu was started in February 1981. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization completely separate from the Honolulu Police Department. I myself have been a law enforcement officer for 20 years now. So I recently took over the program approximately a year ago once Sergeant Kim Buffett retired.
Being separate from HPD
Yes.
and being connected as well.
Yes, in some ways, yes.
Okay, so maybe explain how it has evolved since 1981.
The way we've evolved is by expanding ways where people can submit tips. Basically, the program, how it operates is it allows the community to submit tips anonymously in regards to crimes that have taken place or if they're aware of crimes that are going to take place. It allows the community to submit their tips anonymously, and we've expanded it to allow the public to submit their tips via online, as well as our phone call and our P3 Tips app, which you can download on your smartphone.
P3 Tips app.
Correct. We have an app that we started.
Very contemporary.
Yes. So we started utilizing the application approximately 2 years ago. And what that does, it allows the public to submit tips via the smartphone, completely anonymous.
So when we say tips, it's
Yes.
information,
Correct.
right? And information on what might happen, what did happen. When something is ongoing, do they call you?
So basically the difference is if the public is aware of a crime that's currently occurring right now and needs immediate attention, you want to go ahead and call 911.
Okay.
Call for police to address that immediate concern. We are more of something that has already happened, and we're asking for the community for the help in identifying suspects, or if they're aware of something that's ongoing right now, such as drug activity, a drug house, or we also extended
Sex trafficking
as
as
well.
serious,
Yes,
right?
very, very serious. So even things like that. If you're aware of a situation, you want to submit your tips, but you want to remain anonymous, we are that option.
Now, is that different from HPD?
Yes, once again, we are completely separate. We are a nonprofit organization, completely separate from the Honolulu Police Department. Although I am a sworn officer with the
Right.
Honolulu Police Department, I'm actually on loan to run the program.
So if a citizen would have information on somebody who smashed a car,
Yes.
right, with a tire iron, smashed the
Yes.
window,
Yes.
they would call you.
They would call
Or they
us.
would call Crimestoppers.
They would call Crimestoppers.
And when you say they can be anonymous, if they call HPD, they have to give their name and number. and
Correct. Well,
identify
most
themselves.
times when you call HPD, they may ask, for your information and as well as your phone number, or if you're willing to meet with the officer. With Crimestoppers, we do not have caller ID. You go ahead and call. Our call takers all been trained, and basically once we receive that information or the tips, we basically sanitize everything, meaning we take any type of identifying markers or
protect the
information
caller.
to protect the caller.
All
And once we receive that information, we go ahead and forward that to the proper investigative divisions.
And you have two other facets of this organization now.
Correct. So in 1997, we started the Student Crimestoppers program, and that's to basically bring security amongst the school campus as well as the neighboring communities. And in 2001, we partnered up with the Hawaiian Humane Society, where we started the Animal Crimestoppers program.
Animal Crimestoppers, what would that look like?
Well, we feel like there's a direct correlation between people who abuse animals and for the potential future violence towards people. So what we do is we work with the Hawaiian Humane Society, where we investigate and we forward tips regarding animal cruelty cases.
Wow, that's quite progressive
Yes.
and
yes.
very relevant.
Yes.
Well, it's really a pleasure learning a little bit more about this, but also meeting you and thanking you for your efforts.
Thank you very much.
And I'm sure you want the public to call in and they will check your website and that P3 app.
Yes. So basically what the public can do, they can call us at 955-8300 or go to honolulucrimestoppers.org or submit their tips via the P3 Tips app. All options remain anonymous.
Great. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us. Thank you for tuning into Island Focus and listening to Sergeant Chris Kim, who is with the Honolulu Crimestoppers. Appreciate you being with us. Thank you for joining us in meeting Rebecca Barales, who is with the Kohala Mountains Watershed Partnership. Appreciate you taking the time to be with us,
Thanks for having me here today.
especially coming from the Kohala Mountains to these plains. It must be quite a transition for you.
Definitely is.
The watersheds, help us understand what that means.
So the Kohala Mountains Watershed Partnership, or KMWP, was formed in 1999, and it's a partnership between 16 major public and private landowners who own approximately 110,000 acres across the Kohala mountain range. And they've all kind of come together to commit to the restoration and protection of the native forests and the critical watershed habitat on their lands here in the Kohala Mountains.
That's quite a commitment.
Yes, it is.
You know, and especially when we look at the ko'olaus running across our island. And watershed means what?
Right. So a watershed in Hawaii is typically an area of land, usually a valley with high ridges or mountains surrounding it, in which all of the rainwater and the fog drip collects into a single outlet. And it can then run above ground from the mountains out to the ocean as a stream or a river, or it can go below ground and down into our aquifers.
So when it rains, it's a good thing.
Yes, rain is a very good thing.
And even when it over rains, right? Or when there's a lot of rain, I know there's spill off, but it fills the areas that we need to have filled.
Yes. So every time it rains, that rain moves over the mountains, and in these watersheds, our native forests are the best at capturing that water and bringing it down into our aquifers. And that's actually where we get our drinking water from here in Hawaii. It's from these aquifers. So these watersheds are really important for providing that fresh water for us.
So our infrastructure, our water system infrastructure, we use drinking water and those watershed waters to flush toilets, to water golf courses, to wash our cars. How are you addressing this from the partnership perspective?
You're right. Every time we turn on the faucet or a sprinkler, that water's being pumped out of those aquifers. What we've been seeing lately is our watersheds are actually under attack from threats of invasive species coming into our forests and basically fragmenting and sometimes taking over these entire native forest watershed areas. And so what the support staff of KMWP are doing is going out into the summit areas and some of these really deep valleys and gulches where the watersheds capture the most water, because there's certain areas where most of the rainfall goes into the aquifers. So we try to target those priority areas to at least slow or potentially stop the spread of these invasive species into our forests.
And invasive species of plants.
Plants as well as animals.
Right? When these invasive species are removed, it allows the forest to be healthy and do what it's supposed to do.
Basically, once you remove the invasive species, the native forest can come back, has a chance to kind of restore and heal itself. And
that must require a lot of volunteers.
It is quite a bit. So the support staff that helps on these partner lands in doing this invasive species removal is a small crew of about 10 people.
Can
total.
you use more people?
Yes, so we do have a thriving outreach program where we welcome volunteers from the general community to come out and be a part of this watershed restoration. So we have a few sites around the island that we're currently working at, and public work days are a couple of Saturdays each month, where we'd love to have anyone who's interested in getting involved in this come out and join us.
Is there an educational component of this partnership so that what does that look like?
Definitely. So I'm the community outreach liaison, and so our education component is very important to KMWP because we need to let people know what watersheds are, what's going on with them, and how people can get involved. I go out into schools and do presentations to teach the children as well as adults about these different threats to our watersheds and what a native plant looks like and what it does for our water.
And we have to really shift the way we look at water and preserving it.
Yes.
So, thank you for all the work that you're doing.
Thank you for
We'll hear more in the future, I hope.
Yes.
We've been meeting Rebecca Barales with the Kohala Mountains Watershed Partnership. Glad you could be with us. Mahalo to the Rail Operations Center for hosting us today, and to you for tuning in to Island Focus. I'm Lyla Berg. Aloha and malama pono. Take care of each other. See you soon.